By the way, I'm not making these videos because I want sympathy or I want someone to feel sad for me. Because people need to know what it takes to be strong. Hi guys, today I'm going to make a series of videos. Each one of them will have a separate title, and this is to let you know a lot about my personal life, my struggles, my issues, my happiness, my sadness, my success, my failures, how I built myself. I think there's a lot of misconceptions on social media about people these days, and same thing for me. People look at my videos and my Instagram posts and they make assumptions that I'm some playboy has an amazing life. It's not true. I'm just a regular guy. So I'm going to make a series of videos that covers each one of those elements. You just can pick and choose or watch them all if you like. So here we go. I thought I should do a one-to-one, heart-to-heart, and tell you, my viewers, what my life has been and how I got to be where I am. Many of my viewers tell me that they aspire to my life and they think that I've had it easy. Some people just think I'm moaning about trivial things. In general, there is a lot of assumptions made about me, and I thought I should do a one-to-one, heart-to-heart, and tell you, my viewers, what my life has been and how I got to be where I am, and tell you the deepest, darkest secrets. I don't know if they're secrets, but things that I don't talk about to people. I'm now putting them out on the internet for everyone to see. But I think that a number of messages that I received in the last month have made me realize that people look at social media and the internet and everything that's put online and take it for face value. They don't see or understand what's behind it. No one shares their sadness or their difficulties or hardships they go through in life. Everyone just talks about all the good times and shows you the happy photos and videos. And I am one of those people. I show all the good parts of my life. I never talk about the struggles, the difficulties, the sadness, the depression, all of those things that I go through and have been going through all my life. And people make assumptions. People think that their lives are not as good and someone else's life is great. I personally find that when I look at Instagram too much, I feel depressed, because you get those little moments of happiness when you see something, but then eventually it sinks into your brain and you realize, I'm not that happy. And you think, wow, everyone else's life is great except mine. So the first part of this video is about early life and childhood, how it forms us, how it shapes us and makes us into the people that we grow up to be. It's very important for us to realize how things have impacted us, how they've made us think in a certain way, and how we can change them. I'm not saying I'm a genius and I have figured all this out quickly. I have been going through this for the last 40 years of my life, and now I'm starting to realize certain things. So let's talk about my early childhood. First of all, contrary to common assumption, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I wasn't born in a wealthy family. When I was 3 years old, my father died and my parents lived in a third world country, and suddenly my mother had no money. So we were extremely poor for a number of years, and I struggled not understanding why we didn't have certain things when my friends and classmates and other people had. I was just a child, and when you're a child you don't understand certain things, and I think parents should be more open and honest and tell their kids what it is and why certain things are the way they are, because kids are little people. Their brains are being formed and their thought process and analytical abilities are being built. So if you lie to them, it confuses them as they grow older and creates lots of conflicts. So, a number of things about my childhood. I won't go through the whole sob story because I don't think anyone cares. But just to give you an idea, when my father died, my mother just said, "Oh, he's gone back to England," and she didn't tell me that he was dead. So for a number of years, I kept waiting for him to come back until one of my neighbors said, "Oh, your father's dead." And I was like, "No, he's not. He's in England." And she said, "No, he's dead." And I said, "Well, my mother said he's in England." And she said, "Your mother's lying." And that was a major shock to me as a child, finding out that my father was dead through someone else. My mother had some psychological issues. She had her own troubles and things that she went through, hardships in life. She was a very cruel and a very difficult woman. And from a very young age, I remember lots of beatings, me crying every single day. At least once a month, she would threaten to throw me out, and I was a child. So it was like 4 or 5 years old, and your bag is packed and your mother's saying, "I'm going to throw you out." So I developed a lot of insecurities and worries about losing home. Fuck, this is harder. Much harder than I thought it would be. So I used to get beaten up pretty much every single day. When my mother would come back from work, she would take out her anger and frustration on me. And so growing up, I had a lot of sorrow for no reason. Then as I grew a little older, I was a teenager, and our lives got a little better because my mother got a different job and we moved to another country, and we weren't living in a third world country anymore. So it was still never a good place to be. The place where you grow up, the home, the feeling of security is very important for us. And when you grow up in a household where it's constant abuse, you end up doubting the safety net that a home is supposed to be. As I was growing older, my mother would tell me that I was ugly, I was short, and I would die young because of my behaviors and my attitude. So outside the house, I was facing issues that all young children and teenagers face, while at home there was constant abuse. I used to get bullied at school because I was a different looking, whiter kid compared to where I lived. I don't want to name countries, but I used to get constant abuse for that. And then once we moved countries, it became less, but there was still, because we didn't move to England and we moved somewhere in the Middle East, and there was a lot of other issues that I had to face. And then coming out, I knew I was gay when I was, 16. I knew that I liked guys, but I didn't really know why and whether it was something that would go away, and I was trying to force myself to be attracted to girls and it wasn't working. In my early 20s, I told my mother that I was gay, and her response was, "I'm so ashamed of giving birth to you. You're going to die of AIDS or some other horrible disease, and you've brought shame upon the family." And the most horrible things that anyone has ever said to me were said by my mother. So coming out to your parents is hard sometimes. So all these things that we go through shapes us into the people we are. For me, I always knew that I didn't have a safety net. My plan from an early life was to leave home. So as we're growing up, we think of our house, our home, our family as our safety net. And if we don't have that, it makes us very weak and insecure. We can take it two ways. We can either destroy our lives, start doing drugs, do some other kind of escapism, or we can focus on ourselves and say, how can we secure ourselves? And that's the route I took. I decided that I have to take control of my life. From the age of about 14, I decided that as soon as I can stand on my own 2 feet, I would leave home and never come back. And that was sort of my mission. And I knew that if I don't work hard myself, I would be under a bridge or dead in a gutter somewhere because there'd be no one there to save me. So a life like that makes you both strong and weak. I became very resilient, and I knew that I had to fend for myself, I had to make my life secure, I had to provide for myself, I had to be my own safety net. But at the same time, I didn't trust people, because if you can't trust your own family, who can you trust? And that causes issues in your life. Also, when I reflect upon my life, I don't think it's that bad, because there are people in Africa who have no food, they have no healthcare, they have diseases, they're suffering every single day. So there are people around the world who are being abused sexually and sold and being mistreated. So there's far worse atrocities that are happening around the world. My life isn't all that bad. I'm having these emotions because I can remember those times, and it's not about that my issues are worse. It's just these are personal things that I went through. So I'm not making these videos to seek sympathy and to get pity from people. I'm making these videos because I think people should be made aware of the realities of life, of people like me that some people look up to and think, oh, his life is perfect. So I want to take you through what my life is about and how it's not perfect. And I've had numerous issues that I've had to deal with. And also, my issues are my own personal issues. So everyone's issues are their own. It impacts you personally, and that's all you know. So I can sit here and say, well, my issues are really bad, or I could say, well, my issues aren't that bad. There is a vast number of different variations of sufferings around the world, but each person can only relate to what they know, how you feel. So I never try to dismiss someone suffering because I think, oh, it's not as bad, because that's all they know, and what we think is something very trivial might be very severe for them. And that's why we need to be kind to everyone and try to understand, because you might think, well, I suffered a lot more and I am brave and resilient, and why aren't you? Unfortunately, that person isn't you, and the way they react to things is very different to how you would react. How people absorb all the stresses and issues that they face is very different.